there was this concept of a website that for the first time, you had to find a way to get to that website, right? It moved beyond the DNS servers and moved to an interface. Well, once you created your websites, people had to find them. And so naturally, this company that was founded out of Palo Alto that had $278,000 in its first year of revenue, indexed the entire web and created the search layer that sat on top of that, right? In 2007, there was a man in a similar turtleneck who went out and who showed a phone with only 6 apps on it, right? And that fundamentally created new industries like health, like e-commerce, like shipping, like a whole bunch of other industries. And kind of fast forward, you then have the cloud layer, you have the social layer, and we have a new layer that's sitting on top, and that is being created right now. And that's what we call the agentic layer. And there's a guy, Jensen Huang, he's the CEO of NVIDIA. He's got a really cool shtick. He always wears those cool leather jackets when he talks all the time, and he gets Disney robots and a whole bunch of other things. But Jensen is the first company that touched $4 trillion in market value and sells billions of dollars a quarter of H1000 chips to largely 10 companies in the world, which are driving this agentic future that we have. And you've all would have seen this agentic kind of future in this AI growth curve. But most importantly, Jensen Huang, Jeff Bezos, all of the luminaries around the internet are saying that this agentic layer will be more productive and larger than all the other layers combined. So I want that to just sit in your head for a minute. Like the immense, Google has created the most profit of any company in the history of mankind. And so now imagine what that's going to look like as we start to have these large waves of agentic AI and robotics come in that are going to drive this consumption of AI in our businesses. But where are we? Where are we in this growth curve? Now, again, I had the privilege of working with some very smart people, lots of tweed jackets, and some people with like triple elbow patches. But we worked on all of these large language models, from Alexa to those health watches that you worked on. And where we are and where we can all imagine in November of 2022, we had this amazing thing called ChatGPT 3.5, which I had the privilege of working on. And it was absolutely remarkable in your first post, right? The second one was equally remarkable, but by the time you had your 6 consecutive prompts, you start seeing this generalized responses. And we still kind of feel that today. And that's called your zero-shot inference or your hallucination. You can kind of look at it one of two ways. And so that's still driving forward. But I want to just outline it to everyone. ChatGPT and these large language models, they do not understand what you are asking of it. They are simply probability engines. And why NVIDIA is worth so much money is that for every single word that you type into that interface, it goes into the cloud and it hits a GPU. And it has to look across 20 trillion tokens. And a token is a word. So every single time. And that's why NVIDIA is worth so much, because only the top 10 biggest companies in the world are buying 90% of its chips. So large language models don't understand what you're asking of it. They're just math. They're running math. Now, quickly, we go from generalist chat to specialized chat. And there's a great company called Wordsmith, which essentially built a large language model for lawyers. But what we'll see moving forward is what's called small language models. So we'll see a proliferation of them. They'll start to come up. And just so you know, our take on it is large language models. And by the way, there's a large vision model. There's a large geospatial model. There's a large reasoning model. And there's an emerging large quantitative model. And all these models come together and may deliver us artificial general intelligence someday in the future. I think it's pretty far off. But where we're moving to very quickly and where we are today and where all of these companies are talking about are AI agents. And we're right in the middle of AI agents. Now, by the end of the year, they will all be made redundant by agentic agents. So watch your news and very quickly, like, what is the difference between an AI agent and an agentic agent? An AI agent can do a series of pre-programmed tasks very, very well. So the example, book me a flight. We've all seen ChatGPT Operator come out. It just launched its agent, which wipes out 95% of all those tiny point solutions that are out there. But an agentic agent thinks creatively to try and solve the problem that you give it. So an AI agent is book me a flight. An agentic agent is find me a holiday my family will love. So what does an agentic agent do? It goes to your LinkedIn feed and it looks to see if you have like skiing holidays in the image or if you have beach holidays. It looks at your job title on LinkedIn and cross-references that against a database of salaries to impute how much you can afford, or it may ask you the question to be able to do that. So agentic agents are already largely here. They're kind of emerging, but they will quickly eat, and this is why it's retail AI Darwinism, because it is the eat or be eaten when it comes to technology that we will quickly move into. So something to keep into the back of your mind is be very prudent about the technology that you start to put into your business, especially today, because very likely you will have to change it in the very near future. So if agentic agents are amazing and they're everywhere, and you'll see this in your news feeds, and if you're really smart, you're using a prompt to deliver your news for you every single day. But why aren't they here? Well, in actuality, building enterprise-grade AI agents is extremely hard and extremely expensive. I worked on Alexa, and tragically, it's used today to like set a timer for your pasta or ask it the weather, but it does a lot more amazing other things. So just that text to speech, so when you ask it to set a timer, that seems very simple, but there are 67 submodels that sit underneath that. And I had a 400-person team, which was dedicated to this thing for a particular project. And remember the complexity of enterprise grade, different dialects, right? You can hear my amazing Australian accent, right? I'm an Aussie, they let me in, but I have a Canadian accent, right? So that really messes up the Alexa when it has the AU setting here. And language changes all the time. So the moral of this story is that AI changes very quickly, but really delivering enterprise grade with the diversity of your customer bases, with the diversity of your products, with your orders and your experiences, it becomes really big to build it to make it accurate. And we'll talk a little bit later after Duncan does the case study around the mathematics of it. And the reason why is like, welcome to your AI builder smorgasbord. If you took 10% of this, you're going to spend $1 million in service fees to build your AI. And then you need some tweed jackets and elbow patches to be able to put it together. And then you need DevOps, and then you need maintenance. So there's a lot of the AI sales tax that we talk about that is hidden behind those things. And even if you buy an AI off the shelf through a service provider, you have to be very careful because there's a large maintenance and essentially training capacity that's required to be able to deliver, again, enterprise grade AI services, which again, kind of simply put, that is the voice of your brand. That is how you want to interact with customers, et cetera, et cetera. And so what do we have? I mean, if it's so expensive to build AI agents, like what is the result? And you could probably go to the booth sizes around here, the biggest booths. The world is filled with what's called AI agents or vertical AI, right? So Salesforce has Einstein, HubSpot has Breeze, like name your multinational SaaS company, and they have a weirdly named AI agent. But you have to remember, Salesforce Einstein may help you sell more to your top customers, but it will not know if those top customers are poor payers. It is not connected to your accounting system, right? And so what does the future look like if we keep going down this point solution or kind of point solution, a vertical agents, is that it looks a lot like the last 25 years. It looks a lot like your subscription bills that I'm sure you get every single month. And you will have, if we go down that path, an AI agent for every function. Then it will get smaller because every function is very big if you think about it. Like customer service ticket responses for logistics, that's an AI function, not customer service. And then you'll have to get AI agents to connect the AI agents together. And then again, I'll talk to you about the mathematics of it and the quadratic increases in cost. So what is Decidr? And because I get to be up here and I have a turtleneck, I get to do 1 second of Decidr. The future is a horizontal application of AI. We need to move from vertical AI to horizontal AI. AI thrives on context. So just think about the prompts that you put into ChatGPT, right? The bigger the prompt, usually the better the results. Is that right? So think about your entire business and your context. If your horizontal platform knows that that top customer is a poor payer, would you do something different? Right? And the answer is yes. Like that's what we do as humans, as human intelligence all the time. We nuance our way through. And so Salesforce bought Informatica in early June. Salesforce faced into its Kodak moment because in a future where Salesforce's whole business is getting us humans to tippy tap into systems, if you do not need to do that, what do you need Salesforce for? You don't need a CRM system in an agentic future. So it bought Informatica, which is an AI database management company for huge enterprise. So Salesforce did the right thing. They had their Kodak moment, and I think they'll transform. And there's a secret war for horizontal data going on. Shopify has a horizontal platform. ServiceNow has a horizontal platform. Google Agent Space is a horizontal platform. Microsoft Copilot is a horizontal platform, right? None of them are full horizontal, but they do take a really important section of a business. And so The future is not AI point solutions. I can kind of looking around, there's a few people who are around here for the dawn of the internet, right? Going from an offline business or bricks and mortar to an online business is very different. We will experience the same fundamental change of going from an online business to an AI organization, AI first. Now, just like in the dawn of the online, if you were at Meijer, you wouldn't put your online store and put it in the Meijer retail store. That doesn't make sense, right? We are putting AI, which is inhuman, into human organizations. We are messy. It doesn't need our screens. It doesn't need any of those things. And so the future is an AI first organization. And that's what we build at Decidr. That's where your entire organization, sales, marketing, finance, procurement, and amongst other functions that you wouldn't be able to afford because you're too small, but now get them, can now operate with your guidance on top of it. And so we're launching this Decidr platform. There's a preview. I'll talk about it in a moment. But I think that's kind of the first intro. That's the scene setting. I'm going to take you just after the case study into what is happening specifically for retail. And there's 3 things you need to be aware of. And what we'll end up on is an open discussion, perhaps with your headphones. We'll see how this goes, around any questions that you have around how this technology can be applied and how, most importantly, you can delight customers and you can make more money. That's why we're here. Now, I'd like to invite my good friend and colleague, Duncan Brett. Duncan Brett has been in e-commerce for, he doesn't want me to tell you how long, but he has been the managing director and GM of large e-commerce companies like Clearly, eBay, Quantium, Bras and Things, Zimmerman. I don't know how I got that job, but he got Zimmerman and is a real practitioner in this space. And Duncan's going to take you through a case study of how horizontal data can deliver excellent customer outcomes. Here you go, Duncan.
Thank you. Might just do a quick sound check. This is very odd. No? I'll use you, sir, as a all good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, David. What I'll do is big picture view. What I want to do is take you right down to a specific use case, a case study for an e-commerce business. I'm sure you've all bought into the big picture view, but I'm sure all of you are also thinking, what could my business benefit from this? How could it increase conversion? I'm going to go through a very specific case study. I will say personally, very happy to be back here. I was at the inaugural online retailer 2009. Anybody else was here? Was in this building, but it was a different building. So very, very happy to be here in this more exciting space of AI, I would say. So I do have a background in e-commerce. I've run a bunch of e-commerce businesses. I've been obsessed with data and conversion rates and AOV and et cetera, all those other interesting e-commerce metrics for a long, long, long time. So I'm going to take you through a very specific case study for e-com. So you guys can start to think about how this Decidr OS platform what it could mean to me. I'm now the COO of Decidr. We were engaged by the founder of Edible Beauty, which is a premium healthcare, female-focused moisturizer serums business, bespoke, high-end, premium. We were engaged with a specific challenge, which was obviously in the e-commerce space. How do we grow? How do we grow revenue? How do we grow conversion rate? It's quite a unique business. It's probably in the small end of the small to SME e-commerce space. 100% natural products. The founder is a naturopath herself. Had a very obsession with getting some of those health benefits into some of the products that the business has, and constrained by people as well, which is quite an important point. So she had a very bold ambition for us to grow the business, scale the business, increase conversion rate, grow revenue over a 12-month period, but didn't want to scale a team. And they're conversations we have every single day. How do I do more marketing automation? How do I increase conversion rates? But I don't want to scale the team. So we set a very unique challenge. David mentioned very clearly about agentic AI being goal-driven, and we were kind of given this goal by the founder when we engage with the business. Obviously, we want to grow revenue over the 12-month period. My background in e-commerce, how do you grow revenue? You grow conversion rate. But the business had some very, I would say, strict guidelines, guardrails, if you like, and I'm sure you guys as running e-commerce businesses would have the same. So the first one is obviously the maintenance of the company values. So I'll take you through an example in a second of how we built an app that sits on the website, and it's live now. You can go and play around with it. But those initial questions from that business were, well, how do we know that conversation with that AI app will be on brand, which is obviously a big question, right? So part of the knowledge base that we give to the app is the brand guidelines, is the tone of voice, things to say, things what not to say, language, tone of voice. They're all guardrails that you can put around an intelligent agentic app, which is what we did. Also, understanding the benefits of the natural ingredients. One of the challenges we were set is the very specific nature of the customers having the conversation with that agentic app wants to be as if it's having a conversation with the founder of the business. So quite a specific challenge. So the knowledge around what's in the ingredients, why would they be premium? Why would they be so more expensive than a competitor? These are all things that can be fed in with data to train that app that does its trick. Also, can we gather more information on customers? So as the chat is happening, as the app is happening, and you'll see when I show you an example, that's all additional data that can be augmented with the profile of that customer, which is what we did. So what I'm trying to make is there were some very specific must-haves from the customer. It wasn't just, I would call them chatbots on other websites. They wanted a very specific, intelligent, agentic app that can speak as the business speaks to, can be always on, and customers can choose to have a deeper conversation about a product, about a price, or anything they want. So we had some very specific challenges to work around. So welcome to the Decidr OS instance for Edible Beauty. So you've got Edible Beauty at the center. All those platforms around the side, you're familiar with them. They're all doing different things. They're all adding value individually. We're adding value individually to those businesses, whether that's sending emails, whether it's looking at the performance of paid ads, whether it's looking at inventory. They're adding value individually, vertically. They're not adding value horizontally to the business. So the value proposition is connect through APIs to those platforms, suck in those data from those disparate systems onto the Decidr OS platform, and then you start to unlock the value horizontally. So the data in Klaviyo can be linked to the data in Google AdWords. The data in Meta ad spend can be linked to inventory. It can all be linked together. It's in a platform built for AI, and you start to add value across the whole business rather than just looking at it vertically. So that's kind of a graphical illustration of what the Decidr OS could look for your business. API connection to your platforms that you have already, sucking in the data and moving it from a vertical view to a horizontal view. And we spun this up very, very quickly. So probably a couple of iterations. We went live in 4 weeks. In about 8 weeks, we got to driving 5% of incremental revenue. In 12 weeks, we were driving 10% of incremental revenue. That process is now down to days, not weeks. So the process from discovery to deployment is now very, very quick. And I'll show you just a little video here. That should play. So what you're looking at here on the left-hand side is Ava. Ava is the intelligent sales app within the Decidr OS that's powered by the data from Edible Beauty. And you can see we call it a jerk test. So we are big at being jerks when we test things online, and we throw vague, ambiguous questions at this. And you can see, as opposed to most of what I would call the traditional chatbots on many websites that exist today, that get stuck very, very quickly, Ava does not get stuck. We start by, Ava asks me my name. I say, I don't want to give my name. She's very easily able to get around that. I start asking questions around, what's your best product? Very vague, very ambiguous question. She's able to give a nuanced answer to it. I start asking questions around why products are expensive. And she knows, because she's connected to Shopify, she's connected to other elements of the business, why that moisturizer is $65, because it's natural ingredients, because of all the natural spices that are inside it and all the health benefits of it. These questions, very typically on a traditional chatbot, and you can see in the right-hand side, you go to Sephora, you go to Julie, you go to Adore Beauty, very easy to trip them up, very easy to come to a brick wall where it will say, please contact one of our team, send us an email address, and then you're waiting. Very, very difficult to trip Ava up. She will always come up with a nuanced answer. And it's on brand because she has brand guidelines. She knows what to say. She knows what not to say. A really good example is turmeric. Turmeric is a natural ingredient used in cooking. It's also a natural ingredient used in a lot of the products on the website, has anti-inflammatory benefits. So I've told Ava that I'm allergic to turmeric, and Ava will never, ever display turmeric products to me. Okay. I've also mentioned a competitor website, Nivea. How does this compare to Nivea products? Ava is intelligent enough because she knows the data of the business, and she's also connected to an LLM, so she knows the business, she knows the products of Nivea. She's able to explain why Edible Beauty, that moisturizer, is more expensive. It's bespoke, it's premium, it's got natural ingredients, all natural ingredients. And the Nivea similar product is affordable, accessible. It's completely different. So she's able to answer questions very specific, very deep, and very concentrated on what the consumer is answering. So we're very happy with her performance. She's been going for quite a while now. And as I said, it's very easy to trip up traditional, what I would call chatbots. There are a few very good ones on the market, but very, very rare. When I play around with ecom still daily and go to chatbots, very easy to trip them up, very easy to come up against the brick wall. So fully intelligent, API ready, fully autonomous, and can be spun up in a matter of days, not weeks. Benefits are clear. I won't read through all of them, but very, very quickly intelligent, which is the important point. You guys thinking about putting something like this on your website? And just to be clear, this is a grain of sand of what's inside the Decidr OS. This is just the starting point for this business. API ready, fully autonomous, always on, always smart, always giving you the right answer, knows the products better than your best sales team, knows the products better than the founder of this business, which is amazing. And got some very clear, tangible evidence, which is what it's all about, that it's working, right? So there's two sides to this chart. The first side looks at Ava compared to a human chat version, which is what was operating before we put Ava on the website. And on the right-hand side, it's versus just the website generally. So if I just start with the right-hand side right now, customers that interact with Ava are converting 10 times, 10x the website. So if you work out what your website conversion rate is, 1.5, 2.5, 2.5%, whatever it is, times it by 10, that's what we're seeing today with customers that are using this. Makes sense. They know the products better. You can add to cart within the chat itself. So the conversion rate is 10x. And 100% increase in orders as well. So the numbers speak for themselves, and we're very happy with it. Email, I will touch on a little bit, because one of the goals we were also given was to collect more email addresses. That was the most valuable channel for this business. So one of the goals we gave over was to collect email addresses. So as you guys start to go through the flow and look at it, you will see it asked for an email address. So we very clearly set that goal, and it's driving success in business as well. So what's next? I won't labor on this too much, but what I showed you, to be clear, is just a grain of sand of what's inside the Decidr OS. The business wants to do more things with what's inside that Decidr OS now. I think one thing that's mentioned there is automated blog production. We have another app inside Decidr OS that is content generation, and there's more apps around search, etc. So what's next is for that business to take more advantage of all that data that's inside the Decidr OS itself. What's really exciting is what we think is coming next. So there's another quick video here. So this is where, and David will talk a little bit about this in a second. This is where it's going, right? This is the next generation, if you like, and it's coming soon and it's coming fast. The left-hand side is the website. The right-hand side is Ava. So the configuration of the website is completely customizable and completely configured by the chat that's happening inside Ava. So browsing, searching, add to cart, your shipping address, where you want that product sold, your checkout experience, your credit card experience, everything is inside the chat itself. This is agentic commerce. And the website on the left-hand side, your experience is configuring according to your chat with Ava. And your experience will be different, and your experience will be different. That's what's coming very soon, very quickly. And that's what gets us really, really excited. And that's what David's going to labor on a little bit more now, which is agentic commerce. So thank you.
Wow. As you start to chain tasks together, so think about that example I gave. It's got to go to your Instagram page. It's got to look up the images. It's got to then go to LinkedIn. It's got to look you up. It's got to go to a salary database. As soon as you start to ask an AI, right, or a large language model to do more than one thing, the error rate increases. And so why is that? Well, these are neural nets. Right? There's a study of research that's still trying to figure out how they actually work, but they're kind of like human brains. So that means they're not very consistent in giving a consistent result. And so as a business, you definitely need that. You need to ensure that when a tracking number is looked up, it is the correct tracking number and it's sent to the right person, right? So you can see here, there's a mathematical degradation of quality as you add more tasks together for AI agents. And the second thing, LLMs are very expensive. They are getting cheaper, but there is a quadratic effect in terms of the cost when you start chaining tasks together. If you are hitting an LLM every single time in conversational chat, and that's how every one of these is built, it starts to get really, really expensive. And many of these point solutions will go out of business because the economics of their companies just don't work. But fundamentally, what will happen, and we're already seeing this in the enterprise, you have what's called inference optimization, which means that you just explode your OpenAI budget because you get an AI to do something across 20,000 customers, and it costs hundreds of dollars, as you can see here. So be careful as you're starting to negotiate those contracts, even if you decide to take a point solution, to make sure that you have caps on your token and your expenditure. Otherwise, you can get hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's very possible in bills from these large language models. And so finally, we talked about a lot of this today. Hopefully it was helpful. At Decidr, we're really an AI organization. And when you think about kind of the politics of this world, Australian productivity is flat. It has been flat for the last 20 years. But agentic AI or agentic business have the opportunity to raise productivity. But why aren't we seeing it in organizations today? Because we're using ChatGPT, which helps our individual productivity. We could potentially use point solutions like Einstein to help our team productivity, but the real future is organizational productivity. And if you believe our thesis that AI is fundamentally a horizontal technology, and the more context it has, the better it will be, then the logic will hold true when you think about putting your whole business data into your operating system. And we're unique at Decidr, but watch what happens. There'll be many more operating systems that come out, but organizational productivity is invisible because AI doesn't need screens. It doesn't need prompts, agentic AI. It needs goals and aspirations of your business. And it can work out all that baloney underneath. And then if we chain those all together, we could move into a future that's even sexier than an AI organization, which is AI working with AI at an inhuman level. So thanks very much for listening today. We have an OS preview. We only have 500 slots. We're actually burning through those slots very quickly. But if you're interested in it, we have very low price entry for our operating system. It starts at $99 a month. You can reserve your spot in the preview if you'd like. And thank you for listening.